glad we all.
Attendance, we're all here. Members of the committee are here, good, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to keep that on for today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for peace, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Just, I wanted to do that first, but maybe it's under attendance. I wanted to introduce John Lamoran. Raise your hand, John. John has been nominated to be someone, seventh person on our committee. He is not yet approved, but he is here and if he has any reason to speak. We will certainly take his opinions now and get his approval, I guess, after this meeting, right? Should be. It's on the Board of Selectmen meeting.
7 o'clock tonight.
So,
So let's make this quick, right?
Yeah.
and if you haven't seen or heard John before, he's one who did most of the IT work around the data collection that the those so he'll hit the ground running. So we're looking forward to that. Approval of May 23rd minutes.
I'll move to approve them. I think that's. I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, unanimous? Done. Here's comments. I have, I did have, one that, we have a 7 o'clock deadline tonight. There's another meeting in this room, so, we will attempt to be out of here before 7 o'clock. So we move things, we seem to be moving things along, rapidly. That'll be one of the reasons. And, there's Tom Perry for that. To the room. Liaison reports. Al?
I'm not aware I have anything other than filling out the appointment to this committee.
Okay. We had a something I mentioned earlier, is Erin Mannix, she's not here, I see that. Is Erin Mannix on?
No.
Then I guess what we'll have to do is ask that for at least for the next meeting or as soon as possible, that we get enough update on the RFP for environmental impact. That was requested by both Colliers and UAM.
Put that on the next agenda.
Well,
Unless John has an update from the Colliers update, I didn't see an email back from her. correct?
No, I have not received a response yet.
so, and I was, I stopped in the town offices to see her that last week, and she was not in this Friday, and so it's not no one. So it'd be unfair to put her on this agenda since she hasn't been asked, but we would like to communicate that before the next meeting, as opposed to just putting it on the agenda for the next.
Yeah, I think we can't wait. That RFP needs to go out ASAP. So we need to get an update as soon as possible on that.
And I guess that would fall to me, or no, John, would you be sure to follow up with Erin?
Yes, I sent an email earlier today.
Okay.
I think copied you and Dave on that, but I did not hear anything back from her yet.
Yeah, 'cause you sent one on Friday also.
Friday, I'll
Yeah, Friday. Okay.
we'll keep pounding.
I'm not sure where to put this under chairs comments, or maybe we'll catch it later. Just a minute. Public comments, we have a number of significant number of the public here. Any comments you'd like to make? Anyone would like to say anything? And Jeannie, anyone online?
There's one person online and there are no hands raised.
The next, I think we're gonna have to take a vote on this one. What we would like to do, Jeannie, for future agendas, is we would like to keep the next 4 items, review and approve invoice, remove and approve, review and approve budget, audio update QAM, and make that regular, part of the regular meeting. We can go through them now, but, the request is for the next agenda, they become, regular. And also the note on 7 and 8 would be if applicable. That's we don't seem to have anything today, so, the if applicable would be parenthetical beyond for those 2 items. So and there is one more item that, I suppose we should have to. We have to vote on that, just to change the future agendas?
I don't think so.
No.
The same items are in there. We're just taking the new business.
Yeah.
Label them. I don't think that's, you're the person who creates the agenda, so you kind of have to
Like, I have
go crazy.
carte blanche.
Well, I'm not with that.
What is it? Carte blanche, like, That's why I'm here before 7, we're okay, right? Good judgment.
There you go.
And then ask you why.
And then bring it here for a vote. Got it. For 7 and 8, review any budgetary or invoice items.
We received no items from the finance department, and that's the procedure that's gonna start happening, so it should be good. I don't think anything came into Jacqueline or Jean, so we are good.
Okay.
So Joan, just to confirm the process. You and Ann will receive them, review them, or they go into Collier's first for initial review, then it's you.
So what happens is they'll go into the first selectman's office where Jean and.
They're going straight to the finance department.
Okay, so they're going to the finance department. So then they get distributed to Colliers and to Ann and I. Colliers does their review and we're tracking the same invoices on our end. And then Colliers will approve, and if something is missing, we can ask them about that in the meeting, if they, for that, or it'll be, in sync with what we have.
So you're
And
doing a
then it'll come
concurrent
to this.
review then?
What?
You're doing a concurrent review with them?
Yeah,
Right, but we would not approve without
They're,
Oh,
authorization.
Yeah,
makes sense.
They are the project manager.
Right, exactly. I just wanted to make sure they were in
oh,
the
yeah,
process.
Yeah.
Good.
Parenthetically, though, they don't review and approve their own invoice.
Right.
so.
Well, they can try.
That's a good.
But since it's a set amount every month, it should be pretty,
I would hope the QC their own thing.
right.
We'll go right through this agenda. This Collier's update.
And share with everybody a hard copy of the updated milestone schedule. As we touched on a little bit earlier, we are trying to chase Aaron regarding that RFP that's associated with the excuse me, the brownfield site for that space. We also have the drawings, and I'll let Tom speak to that in more detail. But the drawings are being wrapped up for the schematic design phase, and those are going to the estimator this week. And then those will be estimated, reviewed, and pricing associated with that over the next couple of weeks. And then the deadline for that is July 7th. And then we will be assessing that and reviewing those numbers once they come in. That's pretty much all I have from. Any questions?
May I make a statement that when we have the presentation on the cost, that we have slides that say these are estimates, these are not set in stone. I don't know, however much we can get up front before the costs are revealed so that people know this is a working number, it's not set in stone. And we're gonna do, we are staying within budget period in a sentence. That's our job, is to make sure that happens.
We, since that the July 7th date is right now is a target date. We had discussed when we did the agendas that we would cancel the July 10th meeting. It may not be, it may be, the numbers may not even be ready, or we may not have a chance to properly, even look at them in that early period. So I guess that requires a motion, right?
We canceled that meeting entirely.
Cancel the meeting entirely.
I worked on my vacation,
And we did this for you.
just for me. You knew I wasn't gonna be here, so you said, get rid of the whole thing.
So like, do we have to open the agenda to cancel anything? Remember. All right,
You'd be opening the meeting to add a line item, right?
so yes,
Yeah,
okay, so I'm gonna move to open the agenda to add a line item to cancel the meeting on July 7th.
July 10th.
10th, sorry,
Keep it at 7.
at the 10th, 10th, remember, July 10th.
I'll second. And any discussion? All in favor?
But now I'll move to cancel, do we have to do then move to cancel, or is that good enough?
no, because now you've just added it. Now you're gonna do the vote
I'll
on
move
it.
to cancel the meeting on July 10th.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody thought of anything since the last minute and a half? Not,
So we're just gonna cancel and not put another one on the books. You would have it.
Correct, because the pricing is coming in. We
Yep.
probably won't have an opportunity to review it, right, or it may not be done by the 10th, so.
So when's the
That
next
gives them
meeting?
to the 25th.
25th.
and that's when the we would have a presentation from the architect and the project manager to the committee. And then that's, of course, that would make it the public announcement.
Do we feel like that extra week is jeopardizing us somewhere in the schedule? Like, do we need a special meeting? 17th.
No.
What's that?
Can we get pre-read before that meeting? Yeah, that's the idea.
So that we have a chance to do
Correct.
it again.
Correct.
So that we're
not
prepared
seeing it the first
for
time. Well, that-
questions.
That was the idea, Joe. If we get it on the 7th or the 8th, or meeting on the 10th, we wouldn't have the opportunity to actually deal with it.
So my question is it reasonable looking at the milestone schedule that we would have our conversation and do the approval to proceed to DD on the same day?
That would be the plan, that being 25th,
Yeah.
25th.
Well, that's
Correct.
So
that's something we're on budget.
that means we probably need about 10 hours for the meeting.
On the meeting on the 20.
Yeah.
We'll need, yeah, so we'll need more than just the 2 hours, I think. We're gonna want to
Well,
hold these up.
We still have one more meeting.
Tom?
We still have one more meeting this month, right?
Yes.
On the 27th, is that right?
It was,
So-
yes, it's either the 26th or 27th.
Well, it'd be on a Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
27th. So I think if we want to wait to the 27th, we'll get an idea how Tom's doing with his estimator, right? Then we can decide on the 27th how to move forward. That makes sense.
And potentially add a special.
If we need to add something, we can do it at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
makes
It hasn't even gone to the estimator yet, so. The holidays, July 4th in there.
So just want to point out that the schematic design estimate is an estimate that's used to guide the scope of the project. That's what the strength of that estimate is. It's likely that there will have to be adjustments to the scope or cost or that's normal for the process, and that's what we expect. I'm not convinced that on the 25th, you'll be in a position to give us direction to proceed to the DD phase. You may be, if we have an understanding that certain scope changes would get us down the path. Or if everything comes in hunky-dory and everything is perfect and sunshine. So that may be a possibility on the 25th, but I think it's quite realistic that we have to do some adjustment and some budget reconciliation. And it would happen on the following schedule. But in the big picture, I think we're still okay. John Coplis can talk to the overall schedule, based on receiving estimates, around the 7th. We were just a couple weeks behind our original schedule. So I think in the big picture, it's okay if we had to take a couple extra weeks. We want to make sure that the project direction is on track.
And once again, unlike the school, our deadline at the end is slightly more flexible because it's just a matter of making the announcement of when it's going to be versus. And I think if the public will understand if we're a week or two off versus a school that actually has to open on a certain date.
We have no programmatic deadline.
Exactly.
That's fine, although I will counter that and say that, professionally, we try and recommend the idea to hit the ideal bidding. In construction windows, so the schedule that Colliers has put out is a very fortuitous schedule in terms of its end delivery dates. So, I've had conversations with John. And he believes, and I believe that we can make some of that time back up in the construction document phase of the project. Based on how they have allocated time. So I think we will write the schedule as we get, more to the backside of the schedule.
I feel better than me too, than trying to rush through in one night.
Yeah.
Make all those decisions.
I mean, the one thing we may want to look at when it comes to like abatement contractors, right? Their pricing is better in the winter time or non-school periods when they're forced to be in a building. Performing work, so we might want to time that accordingly to get the best price possible on that portion of the work, and I don't know. So we can stay away from the high school season. Weeks and something that would be good. Do the best we can.
I think cost is probably a bigger factor than schedule.
Right, that's what I'm saying, if we can adjust.
We have to sacrifice on one or the other,
But
the town would probably appreciate more opening a little later. For a cheaper price,
yeah, who knows? I'm not sure how we're trending with inflation.
I think this was around this discussion is around the motion or a motion to cancel totally the July next meeting. And sort of parenthetical to that is that when we do get the initial estimates, then we would meet, presumably we meet on the 27th. If it were necessary, we could make adjustments to that with a special meeting if we thought that was necessary, either before or after the 27th.
No, 27th of June, we're gonna.
27th
Oh,
of June.
27th of June, we thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the 25th is
Correct.
the,
Will be the next July 25th.
July 25th would be the following meeting.
And you'll be here for that one. He's already missing the next one.
I am missing that. Five, maybe missing.
And Dave like to go on vacation sometime.
Tell my wife. There was sort of a parenthetical on this, as we go to the, as we're talking about the, we are supposed to.
let's cancel it so that we.
Yeah, let's cancel it. Okay. Any other discussion?
Oh, we didn't already cancel it?
No, we have to finalize that.
Yes. All in favor of canceling the July 10th meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Parenthetical to that, and and Tom knows this already, but just so that everybody understands. We've made some changes, as we've done some of the drawings that affect the outside of the building, the external walls of outside the walls of the building. And what Tom's been asked to do is when we, in the next set of drawings, there's a certain amount of the exterior of the building, some walkways and some plantings that are the responsibility of the academy. There are other things we've talked about, like moving the playground, that the academy building committee has no authority over. And if there are something like that, and any others that we might feel would give would integrate the academy building better into the overall area, that we can make, we as a committee can make recommendations. And those recommendations will then go to people like Austin, who is in charge of the fields, or the Board of Selectmen, or the Board of Finance, whichever is appropriate. But that would be things that are not in the academy budget, that would not be paid for by the academy, and they would somehow be delineated or marked by in the drawings as being recommended and not part of the budget. And the playground that's already on one of the drawings is a good example of that. There may be others.
And the
So-
mechanism for that, for the public to understand, is it goes, the department head refers it to the capital improvement program, which then is reviewed by the Board of Selectmen, the CIP committee, back to the Board of Selectmen and back to the Board of Finance, and then gets into the budget. So there's a tremendous amount of transparency that's going on here. This isn't something we're trying to slide in. There's several meetings or discussions for any type of these types of things. And this is historically how capital improvements have been made in this town. And this would be a considered capital improvement.
So how do we initiate that? Do we have to go through Al as our liaison? How does that process work?
A formal recommendation from this committee is typically forwarded to the Board of Selectmen.
So I think we should do that.
Yeah.
Sooner rather than later. But we have a few ideas or items that are on, right?
Right.
That we've discussed.
Yeah, I think once we get the cost structure, I think that's when we want.
Well, there's a couple of things I think that thinking in our head and, as a group, Joan, so if we're moving the playground closer to the building, which makes sense.
Right.
Right, we're also tearing up one of the fields closest to the school for our geo field or whatever, and our septic system potential.
Mhm.
So at that point, and I know Austin was on board with this, we probably should move that backstop from the balls hitting the building and potentially cars in the parking lot and moving it to where the playground is, to align those two. So those things are not in our scope, not in our budget, but potentially be great for the community, same amount of fields. The other
But
thing,
the geothermal is though.
correct, just, it's gonna be in the field, they're gonna be digging up the field potentially.
That's the
Anyway, so
time
we
the
might as well realign the field and redo it.
Mhm.
And move that backstop, so we don't have the, children getting hit by foul balls at the playscape, or the building, the windows continue getting hit, and, then secondly, and this may be more of a global discussion with the town. On parking, right? Last meeting, we heard we might have enough parking. Somebody recommended might be able to use the train station and other things, I walked from the train station to the academy. There's not a continuous sidewalk that gets you from point A to point B, so I don't know if that's in the works with the town. I know towns in general have been doing a lot of sidewalk projects. So again, it's just another recommendation or discussion that we should have, because you can't get from the senior center or the train station to academy without traveling on unpaved surfaces or on grass,
Mhm.
unless you take the boardwalk and go by Cumberland Farms and meander your way through town.
Right.
That's the only way you'll get there.
Yeah, extending the academy sidewalk that stops at the building to the end of the.
Yeah, and I think it's more of the driveway where the dentist is, there's no sidewalks there, so you can't get yourself from Route 79 to Academy Street.
Is there one across the street?
Hmm?
There's nothing.
There's
across
a crosswalk and buttons, you can get yourself across 79, but on the other side, you're on,
the- Yeah.
you're
So
on
there's-
grass.
Yeah,
Go
but
through
Webster
parts.
Bank, that whole area, that's another one that doesn't have the actual sidewalks.
Well, you can get yourself all the way to Route 79 from the train station.
Then it's just 79.
Yeah, last
Oh,
year, the
okay.
town, I did Bradley Road and did
Oh,
all the way to
interesting.
79. There's disconnects between, but anyway, it's just.
Yeah.
Opportunities, I think, for upgrades, and if they're already in process or in design somewhere or budgeting, so.
Yeah.
Maybe we just put those items.
These are the
together.
suggestions we're coming.
Correct.
And it may be that
Some are
they could be moved.
optional, some are not.
From one year to the next.
Well, there's certainly upgrades, right, for the overall
Oh, yeah.
project,
Yeah.
enhancements, maybe the town,
Right.
for the town, so.
Currently, there's no sidewalk plan. There's road construction plan, but sidewalk plans. And I think that's falling into a bigger picture, because I know that there's an effort to be able to go from downtown to the surf club as well. So I think that there's gonna be probably a lot of discussion around this anyway, so it will probably end up at CIP as a full sidewalk project, so to speak, but working you know, biking, and walking.
Just for the grant.
I don't think we got,
I
did we get a
think
grant?
only up to 79 though, right? I don't think it goes west of 70.
There are some sidewalks in the works, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to be clear for everybody, the architect is going to recommend things to do in the four walls of the building, and that's under the approval of this committee.
Right. Any
Any recommendations that have to do external to the building are going to be approved through another process, not by this committee.
We could recommend, but we can't approve.
That's correct.
And
Even the streetscaping and the patios?
It's, yeah, we looked very carefully at the language that was in the referendum. And this committee is in charge of what's going on inside the four walls of the building.
which means our budget only has to build in the four walls of the building.
So the parking.
And the, well, and the mechanical infrastructure that may be,
What would that include parking? and landscaping?
I'm not sure I can answer that. That's a very good question. I think the budget for the parking lot certainly is in the referendum amount. The design of the parking lot, though, is not under the jurisdiction of this committee.
That makes it easier.
Joe, was that your understanding?
My understanding was there was some part that's in the budget and at our design that includes some brick pavers that go out the, I guess the south side of the building.
Yes.
And then the immediate, adjacent, the immediate sidewalks adjacent to that. But not, certainly not moving the ball fields, not anything that goes out to all the way to 79. And Tom, is that your understanding also?
I'll follow the direction.
So I guess we'll
Right,
do,
we'll get clarification.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
From the head of Department of Finance. If we have to have a question, that would be one of the questions we would ponder. Because I think I get the whole sidewalk and moving the field, but we're outside with geothermal.
Yeah.
That is part of
Yes,
this process.
Mhm.
So there are definitely outside things.
Yes.
So I think we just have to make sure, once we get cost estimates, we'll go through and say, okay, what is in the scope of the contract and the referendum and what is not.
And what is the approval process for those other items, like if we pay for parking lot, but we don't approve the design of the parking lot, who does? Because we need them on board sooner rather than later.
Probably the police commission first, because they're the parking folks, and then Board of Selectmen.
yeah, the police commission is on notice, because they have to do with traffic circulation. We'll figure this out as we move along. This is
As part of the process.
unusual. There's two approval processes. One has to do with the building and the other has to do with outside the building. And I don't want to confuse Tom here. He's still going to be making all the recommendations.
we'll do our design, we'll approve our design, and we'll tell Al that we need 100 parking spots, and he'll tell us where to find them.
Then Jack Drum will come in and go, yeah.
Because and I also believe that, planning and zoning has some to say.
Some say as well.
Office too.
Right.
And so that's the approval process as we go forward. It begins with the drawings, but it doesn't end.
Not even close.
The possibility exists that we say we want to use the playground and the town says we don't have the money.
Yeah,
And then
don't
can we
see
say,
that.
well, we want to use some of our funding.
I think we've got two things mixed up here. We've got the funding and the approval process.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to conflate the two. I was trying to jump back to the previous. I think we kind of moved on it before my brain was ready to move beyond it. But that feels like a separate concern. Maybe we just deal with it when we get
Yeah, I think
there.
it's gonna, hopefully it'll become much clearer when we get the cost estimates. And then we can kind of go through and determine, there's gonna be things that are on the cusp, so to speak, that could go either way, I would think. If we have the money, yes, let's put it in under our budget, as long as something else stays on budget, we're good. We'll take up that piece so that this capital improvement program doesn't necessarily have to, but I think that would be the ideal.
But still, it still would need approval by somebody in the town. If we said to move the playground and we had the budget for it, it would still need, as a minimum, Austin.
Right, well, I think it's a little bit more than that, yeah.
So we should probably look at, so if we have the geothermal, right, and we have the septic, and that's outside our four walls, then we have to get approval from somewhere else.
No, that was part of the referendum. You can't have, the geothermal was part of the referendum. And the septic is too, because you can't have the inside of it. So it's part of the mechanicals of the building. They just happen to be outside of the building, but they're considered the mechanics of the building.
But I think the approval, do you put it here or do you put it here? And that's, I think, where the town has to have some voice. Whatever the town.
Yeah.
The town is the buyer.
That's pricing, that's functionality, that's prices, put it here, put it in, I'm from that inside.
This is an unusual situation because you're responsible for one building that is actually part of a campus. And so that's why we're having this little murkiness. As we get into this, it'll be clarified.
Once we get the inside of the building.
Yeah.
And then we can spend a little more time with the drawings on the outside.
Yeah, well, I just also want to be careful about showing that, it, the potential hardscape and the walkways, how it's used in the public from the outside isn't defined. We should be very careful about what we show the public.
Right.
Yes. And what we show ourselves, too, it's not just the public, we should not push ourselves or steer ourselves into a design or even a campus design that's not acceptable to the people who have, other people have. Okay. Do you have anything else, John?
No, that's all I have.
Any questions for John? Tom?
I just wanted to point out that we have received schematic design drawings from all of the consultants except the structural engineer. So we're in good shape. Part of that is because the structural engineer still needs to solicit more geotechnical engineering. So his drawings are gonna lag behind a little bit, but he's providing a full narrative. And the architectural drawings are gonna reflect some of the framing requirements. So we'll be able to solicit the estimating for that work, and we will supplement our submission to the cost estimator over the next 2 weeks. So we will be providing a full schematic set submission to the committee through Collier. And then the estimator will get going, and we're gonna make progress. It's good. Otherwise, everything that Joe mentioned and John mentioned, is pretty much what I've been communicating. So
So the concerns of the structural engineers in relation to the elevator, or
it's the area where the elevator goes. They want to do some slab testing at the lower level, just to see what the condition of that soil is, because we're gonna be bearing the new floor for the cafe area. Excuse me, as well as the supports for the roof over the courtyard and the roof over the elevator shaft area. So that stuff's gonna be ongoing in the next few weeks.
so that'll get in before we get our estimate.
Enough information to affect the estimate. Remember, this is an SD estimate, it's not as detailed an estimate as we're gonna get in the design development phase, which is the most important estimate. But this estimate is gonna give us magnitude of cost for all of the scope that we're looking to take on, and that will give us overall project direction.
It doesn't include wall structure and apples like that.
Oh, it will. It will include estimates for all of that, but at this level, a lot of the